Integrative Inquiry, Week 5, Overcoming Negative Bias of the Brain.
So beginning, we're inviting gentle attention to the body in the chair, noticing the feet on the floor, seat in the chair, the back upright, relaxed, alert, and relaxed. Noticing where the hands are placed, feeling the sensation of the hands, connecting with the table or the body, the air. Inviting the eyes to soften so they're looking down, as if they're looking but not really seeing. That soft gaze. Then inviting that gentle attention to the breath in the body. Perhaps bringing a hand to the belly. Sensing the rise and fall of the belly with each inhale, exhale. And just taking a moment to allow some gratitude to arise for this gift of the breath. Be able to breathe without making ourselves breathe. Breathing that supports our life. Just always here for us. Without being asked. Without being thanked. Around the clock. Working to nourish us. To soothe us in the experiences we encounter. And noticing the body in the chair, right here, right now. Just allow some more gratitude to arise. You are here. You intended to be here. You have arrived here. I am grateful. And then bringing a gentle attention back to the PowerPoint. Just bring to mind a moment when you were either offering someone some kindness or you were receiving kindness. Maybe someone opened a door for you when your hands were full or brought you a beverage. Maybe someone just gave you a smile as you walked across campus. Just a moment where you noticed kindness. You experienced kindness, either in the offering of kindness or the receiving of kindness. And see if you can just really soak that in, just steep in it, noticing what you're noticing in the body as you recall this moment of kindness. How are you noticing smiling? Are you noticing some softness somewhere in the body? Are you noticing some thoughts Maybe there were even sounds or smells to this memory. What are you noticing now? Just see if you can soak it in and be with this moment of kindness that you experienced, either in receiving kindness from another or in offering kindness. And then whenever you're ready, gently release that image of kindness, anchoring the body in the chair. Noticing just a few more breaths in the belly. Perhaps again, bringing the hand to the belly. And then whenever you're ready, gently bringing your attention back into the screen. So what did you notice? Yeah, you may have noticed some physiological sensations associated with that memory of kindness. You may have noticed a smile. You may have noticed wanting more acts of kindness, either to offer them or to receive them. You might have noticed other thoughts, other desires. There's nothing wrong in what you noticed. What's important is that we just simply notice. What's also important is that we take a moment to steep in those moments of kindness. You are all incredibly busy leaders leading full lives. And many of you, as we mentioned from last week, have difficult experiences that others aren't experiencing. Life is difficult, and life's difficulties are not the same for everyone. So when we experiencing these moments of kindness, it's important for us to bring our full attention to them and soak them in, just soak them in and seep them in. Because the brain has a negative bias. Ugh, of course it does. Right? We've got this survival brain that is at the core of our being. It's that fight, flight, freeze, or fornicate. It's that gets hijacked brain and can't differentiate if it's really about survival or not. This survival brain means that we tend to look for negative experiences and remember them more than positive experiences. Why? Because it may be important for our survival. If you're watching someone eat something that then makes them sick, you want to remember that. That harmed them. You don't want to have that in your life, right? That's part of survival. So we remember these negative experiences. We tend to search them out, remember them, learn those lessons faster, and that negative information shapes our opinions, and then we reinforce our wiring for negative. Yes, and this is why fear in a workplace will spread and get taken up much faster than love and compassion. We don't have to remember love and compassion for survival. It's a luxury. It's a gift. Now, in parts of our development, it's not. We actually need it for survival. But the point is that the brain, the survival brain, won't remember those and stick to it. So Rick Hansen, whose research this is based on, talks about how negative experiences are like Velcro. You know, our brain will just stick to them, and positive experiences are like Teflon. We just slide right off of them. So what we want to do in this rewiring is begin to cultivate more of the positive. It doesn't mean we ignore the negative. The negative, as we mentioned last week, it happens in many of your lives more often than others. Again, there's racism, there's sexism, there's homophobism, there's all sorts of isms around religion and ways of being and looking that are inherent. So there are negative experiences around that. So what we want to do is we want to harness the negative. We don't want to ignore it or sweep it away. We want to notice it because it alerts us to inner and outer threats that are important for survival. We want to honor survival strategies, and we'll talk about that more in another webinar. But if we can harness the negative while also noticing the positive, it begins to open the heart, and that allows us to transform it. Then we can identify mistreatment, and mistreatment energizes the need to transform the source of it. Remember, what we're doing is we're cultivating neurology to tap into the greater wisdom, the greater inner wisdom and the greater outer wisdom. If we stay in autopilot reactivity, we won't create anything other than what we have already been experiencing. So harnessing the negative, transforming it cultivates growth mindset, resilience, and confidence in our ability to act skillfully and wisely in similar future situations. It also increases compassion and tolerance for self and others. And this is important because, again, this opens and transforms. If we think again of all the transformative leaders in our lives, Madiba, Mandela, Madiba or Mandela, I always want to honor his name that he preferred to be called, which was Madiba. Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., many other leaders in the world. They really harnessed the negative and transformed it, and they embodied a lot of compassion, and they worked to transform the source of the mistreatment. Now, how do we do this? Well, we'll be engaging in a lot of in-class practices next time that we gather. And these in-class practices, we'll be doing some looking again. And so we'll be using some practices that soothe and calm the understandable negative reactivity that we might be experiencing in the midst of a negative experience, to look again to see what else is there that we can harness and transform. If there is anything there to harness and transform. If there isn't, then we know, walk away, avoid, okay? This is clear, but looking again helps us differentiate between that. Another practice that we're inviting you into is to begin to journal what you're grateful for. So a lot of research that talks about journaling, 2 minutes a day, can significantly increase health and well-being, particularly if we're journaling about emotions, experiences, and what we're grateful for. Beautiful practice. And again, the research on journaling with the pen to paper, it activates a lot of neurology and helps actually the body to get attention of the mind that's been wandering, to say, hey, pay attention to this. This is important for you to integrate into your decision making. For some reason, it activates more with pen to paper than fingers to keyboard. So that's the research right now. I don't know what it will be tomorrow, but that's the research right now. So this journaling, I'm grateful for, just 2 minutes a day, or even 1 minute, I am grateful for, and just write what comes to mind. So many things that we are so privileged for having. While we have a lot of challenges in our culture, we also have a lot of luxuries in our culture, like access to fresh water and clean air to breathe, sunshine, flowers, greenery. We have our jobs. And then there's this practice of just taking a slice of gratitude and really steeping in it. So, we could maybe when we have a drink of fresh water, to really steep in the flavor of the fresh water, the gratitude that we have so much fresh water that we have access to in many of our locations. Again, some of us less than others, but that we have that. So really steeping in it, soaking in, noticing the bodily, the physiological reactions to what's happening with gratitude. This helps us call this back in a moment when we need it. So how many of you have those baskets of thank you notes or a file drawer of acknowledgement? Yeah, I do. and we might reach in there when we're having a bad day to just go, hey, somebody appreciates me and what I do, right? So this is that on demand without our basket of gratitude or our file drawer of gratitude. We can just on demand pull it into a meeting, a conflict situation, getting stuck in traffic on the way home, whatever the case might be. And then, of course, our plentiful self-compassion practices that we were practicing this last week. Those also allow us to harness the negative and transform it and focus on the positive aspects in our life and harness those and steep those in. Rick Hansen says that in order to counter one negative experience, we need 4 positive experiences. You might not have 4 positives to 1 negative experience in a day. So this cultivating them and creating them in these micro practices, focusing on fresh water, being grateful for the ability to breathe or sit up without support, all of that, lots of gratitude. If you have any questions, you know what to do. Reach out. I'm here for you. I'm here in service to your discovery and your practice. And our takeaways, the science, the brain has a negative bias. It will remember negative over positive 4-to-1. So we need to soak in the positive in order to, I talk about combating the negative, but just being able to be with that negative in order to transform it into something positive. Steeping in kindness is our practice. Looking again with inquiry, we'll practice that more next week. Slices of gratitude, journaling, and offering self-compassion when we mess up and when others mess up. Again, that doesn't mean that we're not going to take care of what's underneath the surface, but many of us need all of us in this together to resolve these very complex problems. If we're pushing people away, we'll be all alone. And that's not what the practice is inviting us to do. Okay? All right. So connect with your buddy and practice. Have that dialogue. Post questions to the course website. Practice focused breathing. Practice gratitude. Practice self-compassion. The 2-minute journal. And the weekly poem. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.